So my name is Gayle. I'm a physical therapist. I actually work in Dr. Jan's clinic. So my role there is several things. Well, you know, I do a lot of the adaptive equipment clinic, so if you guys saw that talk this morning, I do that. I also do some physical therapy, and then we also have started trying to put together some adaptive sports programs. Our goal is eventually to have a camp here, which you guys will hear more about the one happening in Austin after me. So that's our long-term goal, is just providing more opportunities for these kiddos to get out, get moving, to be a part of something, and then kind of to get that extra therapy in as well. So, quick definition, this is a definition of adaptive sports. I'm not going to read it to you guys. Adaptive sports are real sports with adaptations, right? We take those sports that already exist, we either modify the rules, modify the equipment, we provide the kiddos with whatever support equipment they need to be able to participate, and then we just go. And there's lots of different levels. With the clinics that we've had levels where really we're just really working on basics, and then we've had clinics where, we really want to try to start doing some scrimmaging and things like that. So it's, at all levels. So therapy, this is the other side of it, right? We want to get more therapy for our kids. In therapy, we're just basically trying to, treat whatever injuries, whatever muscle things, whatever's going on with that kid, we're trying to treat it. The reality of therapy today, this is really what's pushing a lot of people to look more outside the box, because the therapy right now, we have decreased funding. It's harder and harder to find a therapy program. Heaven forbid your kid will go to school, it gets even harder because there's just not after school spots. There's an increased need for you guys to be involved, because you need to do more home exercise program. You do need to be more involved with it and deciding where they are, making sure you have the right therapist for your kid, making sure that connection's there. Also, there's a lot of increased availability of surgical options. This was extremely well timed, right? Because we just heard about all that stuff. And with those things come a need for really intense therapy and a lot of strengthening and a lot of work after those surgeries are complete. You guys heard the doctors talk in there about how important things are once you leave those hospitals and those clinics. With all of that, especially that increased need for therapy and some of those intense services, we have an increased need to motivate our kids. And I'll tell you, as a therapist, this is probably the hardest part of my job. I know what exercises they need to do, I know what activities we need to be doing, but convincing them that it's fun is a whole nother story. And I know you guys probably get it from your kids too. I don't want to do therapy today. If you haven't heard it yet, you will. I am not offended by it. I understand it, and kids they need breaks from us sometimes. And with that comes, of course, the need to be creative. Reality of being a kid. What do they want? They want to play, they want to have fun, they want to be with their friends, they want to play with their siblings, they want to be a kid. I think that, we get into, this, we start therapy, we start all these things with our kids, and we get so focused on fixing things that we forget that they're still kids. They're little kids. They need to play, they need to have fun, they need to have friends, they need to do all those things. So creating those opportunities is really important. If you look around, youth sports is a huge industry. I mean, there's programs everywhere. You have club sports, you have this, they're starting younger and younger. So all that stuff is around us. And what that means is that when our kids go to school, they go to daycares, they go to programs, all of their friends are playing sports. And so that's what they really want to do. They want to be a part of that. Benefits of sports for all kids. This is just, benefits of sports. You have so much stuff here, everything from social emotional to physical. You're talking about developing, being able to be a part of a team, self-control, motor skills, physical fitness, all those things that are important for everybody. And then you look at our typical therapy goals. These run right along with that, because when you're playing sports, what are you doing? You're getting stronger, you're building endurance, you're getting better balance, better coordination, you're getting better range of motion because you're using those muscles every day and you're stretching them, in more of a dynamic stretching situation. And you get just a better overall sensory and body awareness. You learn how to use your body and how to coordinate it and make it do the things you want it to do. Benefits of sports for kids with CP, it's the same. The goals for therapy and the the benefits of sports, they all overlap. They're all the same. The same thing for social emotional development, same thing for physical fitness. So all of that is exactly the same, guys. And the bonus, you get to make friends with similar disabilities. And for you guys, it's one more place that you guys get to meet other parents that are in the same situation with you are. I don't know how many of you have gotten to meet new people here. I'm assuming a lot of you. You learn things from other parents. You learn about programs. You learn about things that are available. I know a lot of you guys are from out of town, so things are available here you don't have there. So if you can get into these programs with your kids there, it gives you access to parents, to therapists who aren't necessarily your therapist, and just different people that kind of help you, give you ideas and give you resources. All right, so should sports replace therapy? No, never. There's a certain part that you get from therapy that you aren't going to get in sports. A therapy is going to look at strengthening, and we're going to be looking at the perfect alignment, the perfect thing, at each muscle, looking at, we have very specific goals in mind. And those goals are, mobility or strength or whatever related. Those things aren't going to come out in sports. Biggest hurdle in therapy, where I talked about this, motivation. Desire playing sports is, motivates these kids also to accept some medical treatments that they wouldn't necessarily want to. I don't know how many of you have a little older kids, but have they ever been resistant to something new? If you go and talk to them about one of these surgeries that you've just heard about, are they going to really want to undertake that? Probably not. But if they have a goal in mind, whatever that goal is, several of you heard the teenagers talk the other day. That was a really kind of a cool talk to listen to. Those guys have a very specific goal. And when they have a point where they want to go, let's say they want to play basketball or ride a horse, the one guy was a cowboy, they're going to be more willing, okay, I want to do this because I want to get to that point. They'll start to see the benefits of that. They'll be a little bit more motivated for it. Also, all physical activity enhances brain function. There's been so many studies, I've been to courses, everybody talks about you have to move to learn. The more you're moving, the more your brain works, the blood flow, everything just kind of helps enhance that process. Sports are very motivating, so going back to that motivational factor, every kid loves balls. I gotta tell you, I probably have 12 different kinds of balls in my arsenal of things that I use for therapy, because it's the one thing that I can break out and every kid wants to play with, no matter what. And so you hand them a ball, they'll just go. Also, just a chance to accomplish something, whether it's to beat a score, to make a goal, to shoot a basket, to win, to be a part of a team, that's going to be huge. And also, there's lots of options. They're harder to find. I want to say I was really excited when we started setting up some sports programs at the clinic. I was very excited as I started researching to see that there's more and more stuff out there than I even realized was out there. Even as a therapist and working for kids for the number of years I have, I didn't realize how many programs there are already out there in place. And then you have more and more people start stepping up and starting to start those programs as well. Choosing a sport. So the first place you should start is where? With your kid. So you need to talk to them, figure out what they like. What do they like to play? What do they like to do? You can kind of look around too at their siblings and their friends, because like we said earlier, they're going to want to do whatever their siblings and friends are doing. So that's a good place to start. The other thing is what's available. It may be that you just see something pop up. Let's just say a basketball clinic popped up and it's an adaptive basketball clinic. If it's there, go out and try it. That would be my biggest thing, is to encourage kids to try stuff, even if it's not their favorite thing in the world, especially the littler they are, because I had a parent come into the clinic this week that had been through one of our clinics, and we did half basketball, half soccer, and we just did basics and stuff, and she said he'd never picked up a basketball or dribbled or done anything before that clinic, and she said that since then that's all he's talked about. And they got into another Miracle League, and he's been playing, and he's going into his second season of that, and he loves it. And it's been an incredible addition for him. Also talk with your therapist, because your therapist may be able to tell you too, like which sports would best fit with their abilities. Every kiddo is different, what movements they have, what they can do. So it'll be really important to get those people involved and find out. They may be able to kind of help you choose something that'll be the perfect thing. Maybe help you miss some frustrations along the way of the things that don't work out quite as well. What to expect. Be patient, because as they learn and they get out there, this is a totally new skill. Just like every time you go to therapy and they start something new, it's going to be the same for sports. You give them some time, let them try it several times. If they get frustrated and upset, encourage them to go back and try, just like we would for anything else. Get involved. I think being role models for our kids is probably one of the biggest things. Being able to go outside and play ball with them, you know, practice with them, even maybe offer to help with the sports program. Step in and volunteer, even if you're helping with some of the other kids, just be part of it. Help get it organized, help keep them there, that'll be good. I said that earlier, trying to use sports as needed. If something's not working out, if the kiddo isn't liking that one, try something else. Because you just never know what's gonna work. And then of course cheer them on, for sure. And then we need to look for ways to adapt, which is kind of where we're going next. These are kind of some of the ways that we adapt for a sports program. We can change the type of goal. This picture's just kind of one example. We have one actually that we attach to the regular basketball goal, and it has a couple of tiers down from that we've been using for basketball. It gives them a lower thing. With everything we do for our kids, everything you always hear is set them up for success. And that's what we want to do with these kids. We want to make the goals attainable. We want to help them figure out how to get there. We also use different balls. So if, you know, with the basketball, you hand, you know, a boy a basketball, the typical high school boys basketball is a certain size. Well, there's girls basketballs that are smaller. And then we even have used, you know, some other balls that we just ordered on the internet that were more rubber balls. They have a really good bounce. They're easier to dribble. They're really lightweight so they can throw them. There's lots of different ways that we can adapt that. We also look at court size. Try to keep some of that smaller for certain kiddos so that there's less distance to travel from, you know, from goal to goal, or, you know, from our goal to their goal, those kind of things. Also, some programs will use buddies. So hooking each kiddo up with another able-bodied kid to basically help them go through the motions, to catch, to throw, kind of just help them keep them in place. Our youngest ones, I think one of the biggest challenges is getting them to understand where they need to be on a particular court and then getting them to stay there. So, and then of course, so many times the ball comes to them, they miss, it rolls way out. So having some other people around to kind of help, you know, wrangle that ball in helps a lot. And then of course the coaches. A lot of times your coaches in adaptive programs are going to be parents with experience, other therapists, things like that. So those coaches will help adapt and help those kids come along. Equipment. This is very child specific, and it's also very sport specific. Just because you have a specific piece of equipment at home, whether it be a wheelchair or a gait trainer or standing frame, it doesn't mean that that's going to be the best piece of equipment for them in that program. We're trying to kind of partner with one of our local DMEs to kind of help provide us with a few extra demo pieces of equipment when we need extra things. So you'll kind of have to see what's available in different programs. It may be something that you can talk to your school district or you know, the therapist that you work with or something like that. They may be able to get you some other things if you need it. The things you're going to have to look at is, you know, what do you need help with? A kid may be totally independent in walking, but when they get in that situation where there's other kids in the group, or there's just a lot going on, or there's a lot of distance to travel, or there's running involved, that they kind of lose their balance. And so although your kiddo may not use a walker in normal everyday life, they might need something for balance in that situation. Don't be afraid to, what I'm going to call, take a step back. Don't look at it that way and giving them more support for this. You're making them able to participate in something. You're not totally undoing all the therapy you've been doing. You're providing them a whole new activity and a whole new thing. And a lot of times when we learn new things, we need that little bit of extra help, especially in the beginning. But you want to give them what they need and give them that push and the ability to go. The other thing that we really have to consider, and we'll talk about as we go through this, is do you need your hands free or do you need your feet free? Soccer obviously is more of a foot sport. Volleyball, basketball, mostly hands. So when I ask that question, we're looking at, you know, if a patient's in a standing frame, then obviously if their feet are fixed, you're not going to be able to do soccer in that particular situation. Make sense? Different equipment. This is going to kind of give you some various ideas. I try to throw in some pictures of different sports and kids doing it. There's a lot of power wheelchair sports coming out these days. And lots of things from rugby, soccer, all kinds of stuff, hockey. And you know, the power wheelchairs a lot of times are adapted. If you guys can see, I don't really have a thing, but you guys can see on the front of this chair here, there's a cage. They've adapted that chair basically to accommodate, to protect that kiddo's feet. The other thing is a lot of times they use those cages as a contact point to move the ball. So that's just kind of an example of one adaptation and things that they've done. I was trying to see if there's any other big ones. Same thing in this picture up here too, you can kind of see this box Same concept, just different modification. These are all things that you can talk with your DME provider about helping you attach. It's definitely, unfortunately, not something insurance covers, but it is something that, you know, those DME providers can be essential in helping you figure out what points are okay to attach things to, maybe giving you ideas. Our DME vendors have been great with working with us, you know, and getting what we needed to kind of do things like that. We haven't tried wheelchair basketball or soccer yet, so we're getting there. This is just pictures of manual wheelchair. If you'll notice a couple of things, so this is a adaptive bicycle, obviously. So, you know, you can do bicycle races there. If you'll notice this chair, how it's set up different. Again, you have a very different bar on the front. You kind of have this bumper bar that keeps kids from, you know, from getting their footrest tangled up. And then notice how these wheels are totally torqued in. The purpose of that is to make that chair stable. Because if you have your chair as you normally set it up with the wheels here so that you can get through doorways and everything else, and you take that chair is more likely to be able to bump over. Like if you are really in an intense game and going, somebody runs into you, you know, you could get bumped around some. So being able to get either a separate chair that has that or work with your DME provider to adapt, and that's going to be your ideal situation. But it's essential that you make sure that they have that stability in those chairs to make sure they don't get knocked over. Just some other options, obviously this kiddo's playing tennis, and then bowling ramps is kind of another one of those little adaptations that we can do too. Okay, standing frames. So lots of different options for standing frames. You have your typical stationary standing frame that you get in and you stand in it. Very, very limited, unfortunately, when it comes to sports, because you have to stand in one place, obviously. Things that have a smaller court, you know, things like volleyball and things like that, we've been able to adapt those standing frames in. Things that you need to move back from goal to goal, it doesn't work as well. However, I'll tell you, you get a program that's creative enough. If you have a kiddo that's the only way they can participate in a standing frame, then that kiddo stands under the goal and they get to catch the ball and shoot. Or that kiddo stands at mid-court and they get to do it. There is a way to incorporate this for every kid. Like, you just have to be creative. Mobile standing frames, there's pictures of that. You know, these with the wheels on this right side here. It gives the kids, you know, they're in standing, they aren't using their feet, but they're able to wheel themselves wherever they need to go, and then of course take the ball, shoot, whatever. One of the things that we've really learned we have to do is take this tray right here off the front. It gets in the way a lot. But those are things that can come off. So again, kind of if you're working with a program that you don't have someone involved that can do those things, ask your DME person, ask another therapist. You know, they can kind of help you figure out what things can come off and on and how to make that work, because at some point you probably need them back on for whatever else they do in that standing frame. Gait trainers. So obviously gait trainers give you a little bit more mobility. You know, you have to have a little bit more balance to use a gait trainer because you're moving. You do have free use of feet. And then of course you've got to like consider the accessories. So something to consider. If you look at this gait trainer right here, if you're trying to play soccer, it's really not going to work, right? So you kind of have to think that through. And that's where it comes in, whereas if that's the gait trainer that you guys have at home, you may need a loaner piece of equipment or a demo or something in order to play, because it isn't going to work for that. This is a kid walk, so obviously it's open in the front. Obviously it works really well. This particular piece of equipment offers quite a bit of support, whereas this is really just more like a walker. So although your kiddo may be using a standard reverse walker or, you know, a gait trainer similar to this, when they get in there, if they need a little bit more support in order to really get those feet up and kick, when you're playing soccer, when you're doing things, you know, with balls on the floor, you've really got to be able to shift and pick up that ball and aim and kick. It takes a lot of balance, it takes a lot of trunk work, it takes a lot of extra effort that those kiddos may not quite have. They can walk down a hallway, they can access the house, they can access school, but getting that foot up to be able to kick is another story. So that's where I'm telling you guys, don't say, oh, they can't do it. Go out and find a way to help them do it. And if that means going back to a little bit more, you know, supportive piece of equipment, then let them do that. And think outside the box, and this is just a couple of things to not forget about. You know, we guys saw the bike on the other slide. There's lots of water sports out there. You can do bowling. We were talking about a cooking class earlier. Well, not a sport, it's still adaptive. It's still a social activity. You get a lot of those same benefits that we were talking about earlier. These kids need things to be involved in. So just different ways to look out. Laura's gonna be talking in a minute, and she's gonna kind of talk about some of the programs they have, and we're gonna be talking about how, to get access to some of those programs on there. Okay? And that's all I have. Mine's kind of short, so you can go kind of go from there.